It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. I've been to ASDA and I picked up 2 lagers. Now, the reason why I picked up these 2 lagers, now I've reviewed them before, about 2 or 3 years ago. But I'm reviewing them again because, of course, we've had this whole kind of cost of living thing going on. And I've had a lot of comments. So I've spent a lot of my time buying lager in Aldi, Lidl, kind of like showing you guys value for money, if you like. But the comments that have been coming in from a good few of you are saying, hey, don't miss out ASDA. There's a couple of really cheap French brewed lager. One of them brewed according to the German purity law, so it's only using 4 ingredients, so it's going to be a natural beer. And they're both cheap. This beer here is Feldschlo. I can't. It's a terrible pronunciation. I do apologies there. It's a Dresdner lager, brewed according to the German purity law, and it's 4.5% ABV. It's got Dresden, Germany on the back, but then in smaller writing, slightly lower down, it says produced in France. So it's a German brewery and it's contract brewed in France, which is fine because the French can brew really cheap lager. This beer here is coming in at an incredible price of £1.13 as of November 2023. Let's get it out. Little bit of smoke on the bottle opening. Beer in the glass. There you go. Look at that. Great carbonation, 2-finger white head, golden amber in colour. Nice and clear looking beer. Now this is not pretending to be a German beer. This is definitely kind of, it sounds French, doesn't it? Champigneulles, Continental lager, Brasserie en France. Now this is 5.5%. It's Monday today. 5.5% ABV, half-litre bottle, dark brown bottle. But they're both dark brown bottles, so you're not going to get any light bleeding through into these bottles. And this is produced in France as well by Brasserie Champigneulles. It's a little bit more money. It is 5.5% ABV. This one is £1.38 per bottle, but still, for a 5.5% ABV, quite cheap. Let's get this one out into a glass, see what we get. Now, what I'm going to say to you is that my lager tastes definitely have changed since I last reviewed these beers. What I mean by that is I love lager an awful lot more than probably when I reviewed these beers last time round 3 years ago. So I've not looked at the review of my previous ASDA, well, these 2 beers. I've not looked at the rating. I'm going into this with a fresh head, fresh mind, and as somebody now who loves Continental lager, so it's going to be interesting to see how I rate these compared to how I rated them before. I'll never know, but I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments box of the video. So this one's got a 2-finger white head, good carbonation, and again, they look very similar, don't they? Very similar. This one even looks almost looks slightly hazy, this 5.5% beer here. So right, let's get into it straight away. Been brewing since 1858, the first beer, the Feldschlo sschen. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, smells okay. Lovely biscuits, light wafer biscuits on the aroma. Peppery, spicy, kind of lovely hops to finish. Smells good, let's dive in. Cheers everybody. £1.13 a beer. That is, oh, there's a lovely smashing bitterness on the back end. That is lovely and refreshing. That is lovely and refreshing. That's a good beer. That's a good beer. Carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth, releases more of that flavour. There's a little bit of sweetness to begin with. It's got that fantastic kind of dry, crisp, refreshing feel to the beer. It's got a lovely peppery, spicy bitterness on the back end. This is lovely. Oh, now then, that's more than solid. That's like a really decent kind of Pilsner. I'm going to go, I almost said Helles. It kind of starts off Helles like with that lovely biscuit, kind of like light wafer biscuit flavours coming through. And then it finishes on a bit of a bitter note. So I'm going to say, yeah, more, started off thinking Helles, but the more I drink it, the more I'm thinking like a light Pilsner. But point is, I can see why there's so many of you in the comments box saying, hey, get them two ASDA lagers reviewed on the channel, get them done. I'm glad I read all my comments on YouTube, I read as many as I possibly can, but at the same time, I'm glad I took the advice from you guys and revisited these beers because they're great. They're cheap, they're great. And the thing is, so I see ASDA in a bit of a rock and a hard place. They kind of probably started off life looking to compete with Tesco, but they were always like more of a budget supermarket than Tesco, weren't they? And I know all of a sudden, over the last 10 to 15 years, you've got Lidl and Aldi that have grown and grown and grown. And they've almost like stolen most of ASDA's, like what ASDA are all about, that kind of value brand. And they're stuck between the two now, aren't they? They're stuck between, like, do they go with the quality of Tesco? Do they kind of like try and overly compete with Lidl and Aldi? And that's why I think these two beers are here. That's why I think these two German breweries, one French, one Germany, that's why I think they're on the shelves in ASDA, to offer value for money. I think that's why they're there. And to be honest with you, the first beer absolutely kind of like value for money competes with Lidl and Aldi, their kind of German offerings of their lager. But the funny thing is, you've got to look at the bottom, you've got to look at the floor. So you go into ASDA, you see all your Heinekens up at eye level. They're eye level for a reason, because the likes of Heineken and Carl, they pay for it to be eye level. It's a proven fact. People don't look on the floor really when they go to the supermarket. Only people like me. What's that? What's that? What's up there? But most people, they're buying stuff at eye level. So all your Heinekens, your Tiskies, all your kind of like Carlsbergs, they're all Budweisers, they're all eye level. So if you're looking for this beer, look to the floor in your ASDA, in the beer aisle. You'll see it down there. So it's there, it's in ASDA, it's just you got to look a little bit for it. Not much, of course, but you got to look a little bit for this to find it. It's usually on the floor. Right, 5.5% Continental French lager, good carbonation, quite clear, good head retention. Let's get the aroma. Very similar, very, very similar. Crisp, refreshing. Let's get in, a little bit hoppy. Oh. Ooh, now that's a tough one. I almost initially began to say, oh, I prefer this first, I can not pronounce it. Trouble is you can't pronounce the names. I'm going to call them Dresdner. The Dresdner lager. Initially I thought, oh, I kind of prefer this, the Dresdner. But then this beer here, this Continental French lager at 5.5% ABV, it doesn't have that like slightly astringent bitterness that the Dresdner lager does. It's more kind of like a little bit more well-rounded. It's a little bit sweeter. It's a little bit sweeter than the Dresdner lager, this one. But it's equally as drinkable. Little bit more body. It's not as crispy. It's not as crispy as the Dresdner. And the Dresdner's cheaper. Oh, yeah. So, what I'm thinking here is, because this has been brewed according to the German purity law, water, barley malt, hops and yeast, it's more of a pure beer. Now I don't know, let's have a look at the ingredients here. Beer contains barley malt, and that's all they're really saying here. So they might, with this being sweeter, with it being, I'm not saying it's a bad beer, not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, if you like your kind of pure lagers, then this is probably the one to go for. And it's a little bit cheaper, but it's lower in ABV, if that matters to you. Little bit sweeter Continental French lager here on the left, on your right. Bitterness comes through, great drinkability. It's just not as, the malt is not as refined. This beer here, the Dresdner, the malt is much more refined. You're definitely getting more of a biscuit, kind of light wafer, like malt flavour coming through on the Dresdner. And it's cheaper. This one, I reckon, for 99% of the population, this will not matter. But if I was to be slightly critical on this beer, I would say that it might be brewed with some cheap ingredients. It might be some kind of like glucose that they've added to the beer just to kind of sweeten it up a little bit. For me, I don't see why these beers need it. It's probably price. It's probably cheaper to do it that way. It's still good. It's not like I want to throw it down the sink. It's just side by side. I keep forgetting the name. The Dresdner it's just got a little bit more of a clinical kind of like crispy malt flavour to it. And that's purely the German purity law. That is just the purity law on that beer that I think edges it. This comparison video has cost me £2.50. Do your own comparison. Buy the two beers, compare them. I mean, if you've been drinking beer with glucose added for years, which most people have, you're going to love the French lager. It's a really good beer. If you're more like me, a little bit more kind of like edging towards kind of like the German purity law, and you would prefer your beer to be pure, then look at the Dresdner. Definitely, it's cheaper. I actually think it's the better beer. I think it's the better beer. So I don't know what I rated it 3 or 4 years ago, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. Whenever I reviewed them, I haven't even looked when the uploads were. I know I've reviewed them previously. I know I probably said, oh, they're cheap. They were cheap lagers back then. But hey ho, how your kind of brain changes over the years. I'm much more into my decent German lager these days. So the winner is definitely, even though it's brewed in France, it's a German brewery. This is cracking. This is a cracking pint of lager right here, or just like lower than a pint. It's 500ml. A pint is 568, is it, mil, something like that. Yeah, that's cracking. That's a 9 out of 10 for the money. £1.13 as of November 2023. That is a cracking pint. It really is. 9 out of 10 for me. But again, I'm just giving you my view on this. If you've been drinking kind of slightly syrupy lagers most of your life, then you're gonna love this. But for me, it's not quite as pure as I would probably like. It's a little bit too sweet for my liking. But for a 5.5% ABV lager, it's still top quality. It really is. So that gets an 8 out of 10 for me. So the cheaper beer actually kind of wins out here. The main point of this video is there's little hidden gems everywhere in life. You don't have to continuously buy the likes of Carlsberg and Heineken and Budweiser and pay the premium price for those beers. If you're a Lidl shopper, an Aldi shopper, and you want a little change from the Lidl and the Aldi lagers, then check these out from ASDA. I firmly believe that where ASDA are in terms of the market, the supermarket market, they're stuck between the likes of Tesco here and Lidl and Aldi here, and they've got to offer a bit of both. This benefits us as the consumer. They've got to offer a little bit of Tesco quality. They've also got to offer a little bit of Lidl and Aldi quality. And that's where these beers fit in. They fit in nicely. They are cheap. They are good. They are both worth buying. I hope you liked the video. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.